Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gentex Multimedia's daily Facebook Live, and once again it's good to have your company. It's wonderful to see you on this 8th of October, and it's a beautiful day out there. And as I said, that sometimes we will be going live at 11. Normally the time is 10 a.m., but when we have functions and events that need to be attended, we go live at 11 a.m. And today we had the Lord Mayor's Multicultural Roundtable meeting. I'll talk a lot about that later on in the show. But right now, let's take a look at what's in store for us for the rest of the day. With that, we'd like to welcome, with the weather, Dilraj Dillon.
Good morning, everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 28 degrees. Brisbane area is partly cloudy with 0% chances of rain. Light winds becoming northeasterly 15 to 25 km per hour in the middle of the day, then becoming light in the evening. Fire danger is high. Sun protection is recommended till 3 past 10, and UV index is predicted to reach 10, that is very high. Till tomorrow, stay safe and have a good day.
Thank you very much for that, Dilraj. And right now, we are going to look at, before we go into the key news for today, let's have a very quick look at the headlines for today.
The top stories on ABC News this hour. Opposition leader Anthony Albanese is set to promise childcare relief for families as part of tonight's budget reply speech. Getting women back into the workforce will also be one of the central themes of his speech. Labour has signalled it will back the Morrison government's income tax cuts and a range of multi-billion-dollar investment incentives, but says business measures require some consideration. New South Wales authorities are trying to trace 3 mystery coronavirus infections, ending a 12-day streak without a locally acquired case. It's cast doubt about the timing of the reopening of the Queensland border to the rest of New South Wales. In Victoria today, 11 cases have been detected overnight with no fatalities. Melbourne's hot hotels are in the spotlight again, with claims private security guards were still being used when the inquiry into hotel quarantine was taking place. The only debate between US Vice President Mike Pence and his Democrat challenger Kamala Harris will get underway in a few hours. The coronavirus pandemic is likely to dominate the debate, less than a week, of course, after President Donald Trump announced that he had tested positive to COVID-19. The candidates will be separated by plexiglass in an auditorium at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. And severe weather warnings are in place for parts of the country's southeast today. The Bureau of Meteorology warning heavy rain, flash floods and damaging winds. Heavy falls and wind gusts of up to 100 kilometres an hour are forecast in some districts, generated by a cold front.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's the headlines for this morning. And as we now just come out of that multicultural meeting with the Lord Mayor, and it is wonderful to see and get the updates from all different communities and what's happening. So the meeting was partly virtual, partly actual, meaning half the people in the room were actually in the room and others joined in by Zoom. And of course, we know that everyone's been zooming in or joining lots of webinars on lots of these online platforms. But now it is changing a little bit, so we can see that we are turning around the corner, meaning now they are partly virtual and partly actual. So, you know, before we go to fully actual. So these are the sign of times. But it was wonderful to get an update from majority of the multicultural communities and see what's happening in plan for everyone. So when you look at everyone, there's not much that's been different. One of the sentiments that's been raised lately is the federal budget. We will talk about that. There are some many very good aspects of it. People are a little bit concerned about the English level literacy test for partners. So, you know, if you go overseas, find someone, you get married, and if you want to bring the partner in, you'll have to make sure that he or she is able to speak English or passes the English language test. So there's a lot of commentaries around that happening at the moment as well. First up is our Prime Minister.
The OECD has played an incredibly important role on so many issues in which Australia has been a key participant. The base erosion and profit shifting, the taxation of multinationals, all of these important international principles that govern and help drive our global economy. The OECD plays a especially important role in supporting the work of the G20, of which Australia has been a very active member. And so we believe that as the Secretary-Generalship of the OECD is coming up after many, many years, and I pay tribute to the work of Angel Gurria, who has led that organisation for many years. I've met him on numerous occasions, and he's done a fantastic job, and we've worked well with him. And I've thanked him personally for the great job that he's done. We believe the OECD needs the sort of leadership that we think an Australian can provide. And so I am announcing our intention to nominate Minister Cormann, Matthias Cormann, for the position of Secretary-General of the OECD. Matthias's 7-year experience as our longest-serving finance minister, Belgian-born, French, German and Flemish to boot, I think ideally equips him for the challenging role of the Secretary-General of the United Nations.
And he would be a very good candidate. But right now, the news that we're going to is the battle of the borders. And of course, we know, the premiers of Queensland and New South Wales have been, exchanging a lot of comments and words. So let's hear from our premier on what the current situation is.
We can't start till everyone's social distance, thanks. Okay. Is everyone fine? Everyone good to go? Yep. Okay.
Yes, ready to go.
Well, good morning Queensland and good morning Townsville. It's wonderful to be back in Townsville along with our 2 state members and our candidate Les Walker, and of course we've got Scott Stewart and Aaron Harper. The Treasurer's with us, joining us today, and also Minister Fentiman. But first of all, let me give Queensland some more good news. And that good news is 0 new cases overnight. So well done Queensland. That means we only have 4 active cases in Queensland, and the total tests over the last 24 hours was 6,729. So well done Queensland. We've got to keep up those testing rates, but that is fabulous news. That is absolutely fabulous news, and I'm very happy to report that today. Well, today we're in Townsville, and I want to talk to you about TAFE and about skills. One of our key priorities in our economic recovery plan is about looking and investing in skills. Skills are important. Over the last few weeks, the Treasurer and I have been launching our regional plans across Queensland. And now we are focusing and drilling down into what are the skills that are needed in each of those regions. It is absolutely crucial as we progress our economic recovery that we look at the skills that are needed for the jobs in the region and matching those skills with those potential jobs. And that is exactly what my government has done. I want to ensure that young people across our state have the opportunity to pursue their dreams and get the jobs that they want to go into. And we have done a whole lot of work in making sure that the skills match the region. So today I'm very pleased to announce that we will continue to invest in TAFE in our state. Over the last 5 years, we've invested over around $150 million, and today I'm announcing that over the next 3 years, my government would invest $100 million upgrading our TAFEs across Queensland to ensure they match with those skills. And I just want to give a few examples so people will understand how we are working that out. So, for example, here we will be investing $14.2 million on a new hydrogen and renewable energy training hub. Now you may say to me, why hydrogen? Well, it was a former Labor government that developed the LNG industry in this state, that brought about billions of dollars into that investment into that industry. Hydrogen has the exact same potential. I've been speaking with proponents overseas that want to invest in Townsville and they want to invest in Gladstone. So I'm absolutely determined that we get those skills here in Townsville to make sure that people are ready for the next economic boom of hydrogen. It's not just me saying this, the federal government is saying this, and Professor Alan Finkel has been saying this as well. Hydrogen is a huge opportunity for us to capitalise on a growth industry that will be worth billions of dollars. Then, for example, we can look at, for example, Ipswich. We're going to be investing in the Bundamba TAFE there, metals, trades, manufacturing and a robotics centre. We'll be looking specifically there at welding. Now, why is that important in Bundamba? Because my government has helped to secure Rheinmetall in Queensland, and that is going to be really important for the manufacturing of the Land 400, that we have Bundamba equipped so young people can go in there and get the skills to work in these new industries. Then, for example, in Cannon Vale, we're going to have an aquaculture training centre. We know that Tassal has invested heavily in that region, and I want to make sure that young people get those local jobs working at Tassal and other aquaculture centres across the north of our state. So we've got a lot of investment happening in Toowoomba. There's a rural centre of excellence. Stage 2 will be $1 million there. And once again, we know how important our agricultural sector is for Toowoomba.
And how important is the agricultural sector to Toowoomba, and of course all the incentives that's been mentioned, because it is all about jobs. It's all about getting the economy back on track. Well, right now let's hear from the Premier of New South Wales, and as she joins on the Facebook Live.
See that number go up. Unfortunately, we have had 8 new cases of community transmission. Please know that that includes the 3 cases we identified yesterday. 5 of those 8 cases are from a known existing cluster which Health has been able to establish, and Dr. Chant will obviously elaborate on that. The remaining 3 cases of community transmission are all linked, and that source is being investigated by Health. Health has not ruled out also being able to establish a link between that new cluster of 3 people and also an existing cluster. It's also important to note that we anticipate during the day there'll be additional venues, additional locations, which we'll be asking the public to respond to. We anticipate that because we've identified these 8 cases, that a number of close contacts and family members could be found to be positive as a result. So it's really, really important for everybody to stay on high alert, look at the information which Health provides during the course of the day, and please react and make sure you take that advice. If you're asked to get tested and stay home for 14 days, please make sure you do that. If you're asked to watch for symptoms because you might be a casual contact, please do that. Do not take this lightly. We need to get on top of this. But as I said, we had 8 cases of community transmission, 5 of whom have been linked to a direct case. This is till 8 p.m. last night. And the balance of 3 are from the same source, and that source is yet to be confirmed and identified, but our health contact tracers are working obviously around the clock to make that happen. And again, I want to stress, we do anticipate there'll be further information during the day on locations, on institutions, on places where close contacts or casual contacts may have visited, or perhaps those who've been tested and may be suspected to also have acquired the virus. We really need the public to join us in staying on high alert. I also want to stress that on the basis of advice from Health, it's become apparent that some venues, some businesses are not doing enough to be COVID safe. It makes the job of our contact tracers that much more difficult if businesses aren't doing the right thing. And I have no patience anymore for people who aren't doing for businesses in particular who aren't doing the right thing. We've been extremely patient and tolerant to bring everybody on board, but we can't have a few people let down the whole community. And I can't say that strongly enough. Our patience in relation to businesses not doing the right thing is wearing thin, and we need to make sure that all businesses who say they have a COVID safe plan actually have one. And I ask the public to please support those businesses you know are COVID safe. If you book or turn up somewhere and it's not COVID safe or not to your standards, please do not use that service or that business, because we want to support those businesses, we want to support those institutions doing the right thing. but we can't support those that aren't doing the right thing, and it's really important from here on in for us to do that. So I'll now ask Dr. Chant to give a detailed update of what I've described.
So it is important that those restrictions are followed, and that we support the businesses that have COVID-19 safe plan in place, and of course with all the events that have those in plans as well. Well, right now let's join our Prime Minister discussing about the budget, and especially on the aged care section.
Prime Minister, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Lee.
People are still very anxious and tentative because of coronavirus and because of the layoffs we've seen. What happens to your economic recovery plan if people go, oh, thanks, I'll save the tax cut in case I lose my job, and businesses go, well, no way am I hiring or expanding in this environment?
Well, this is why we've designed the budget the way we have, Lee, and this is why we've done it at such a scale. We're dealing with an enormous challenge when it comes to the coronavirus recession and the pandemic that caused it. And that's why we've targeted the measures to those, particularly on lower and middle incomes, because we know that they are more likely to spend it. Now, we'd never tell an Australian how to spend their own money. That's for their own decision. But the way we've designed and targeted these measures has been to ensure that there's the right incentives to do just that, and particularly for businesses as well. I mean, the investment allowance opportunities through what we put in the budget are quite significant, but they all are designed about bringing a whole range of decisions forwards, whether it's bringing forward the tax cuts or bringing forward investment decisions by businesses, or bringing forward their decision to hire, bringing forward decisions to get infrastructure moving. That is what fills the gap that we're seeking to do with this budget, and then build for the future.
On the point about targeting low and middle income earners because they'll spend, wouldn't the most guaranteed way to do that be to keep JobSeeker at its doubled rate? Because on the regular rate, people are below the poverty line, so you give them an extra $40 a day and they will definitely spend that on essentials.
Well, the JobSeeker is already at elevated levels, and it will be maintained at those elevated levels. Well, we've got those arrangements till the end of the year, and I've made it pretty clear that beyond that period of time that we'd be leaning into seeing some form of extension of that when we have a better understanding of where things are at later in the year. I mean, JobSeeker was doubled during the course of the most vicious parts of the pandemic, and those more difficult parts have also been more recently in Victoria. JobKeeper was in place, and now we're changing gear in our recovery, and we're seeing that happen right before us. We're seeing more businesses coming back online. We're seeing more jobs come back in. 60% of those jobs that have come back in recent months have actually been for women, and we welcome that. So the economy is coming back, but it's still got a long way to go, and this budget will give it the important boost for now.
The economy is coming back, but it's still got a long way to go, as the Prime Minister has said, and definitely it has. And of course, we know that right now in Queensland, it is the campaign trail. So what's happening with the leader of opposition, or the the parties all are vying for that position? Let's hear from Deb Frackleton.
Good morning. Fantastic to be here in beautiful Cairns in far north Queensland. It is only the LNP that has a plan to drag Queensland out of this recession, and that is by creating secure long-term jobs, by making sure we're backing industry like the defence industry. Now, the LNP will make sure that Cairns can be the defence marine hub for Northern Australia. Now, make no mistake, we are in a battle with the Northern Territory when it comes to defence maintenance for Northern Australia. So I can announce the LNP will partner with the local marine industry and contribute $20 million towards a synchro lift. This synchro lift will be able to lift ships like submarines as big as 5,000 to 7,000 tonne. To put this into perspective, this one here is only under 1,000 tonnes. So these are huge ships. Now, we know that manufacturing jobs here in and around Cairns have gone by the wayside because the Labor government have actually been dragging the chain. So the LNP will turn the tide on the maintenance and the marine industry here in Cairns. We want to get locals back into jobs. We want to support the manufacturing jobs that are right here in Cairns. So this is an incredible investment with the local marine industry to make sure that Cairns in the far north can become the defence maintenance hub for Northern Australia. Okay, Sam?
Thanks, Deb. Cairns is proud to have a maintenance hub here for Marine, but also the Marine Navy base. The Navy base has been here for over 20 years and is an integral part of our community, and we've been doing marine maintenance here for quite some time. My history is based on marine, and I worked at NQER with the sheds just behind us here when we built the Fremantle-class patrol boats, where we employed 900 people, employed a hell of a lot of apprentices, and it was a great thing for our community and our economy. The federal government, they want to invest into the marine space here and HMAS Cairns, but unfortunately this Labor government for the last 5 years has been sitting on its hands, sitting on the Port Master Plan, and what that means is companies like this here have been hamstrung. They haven't been able to expand, haven't been able to create local jobs for our community, and we need those jobs.
Of course, we need those jobs on the campaign trail. As I mentioned, that both the parties are on the move at the moment. So we'll hear a lot, and we'll try and bring to you live coverages whenever we can connect to live feeds that are happening even during our show here as well, because that would be of interest to our viewers to see what's actually happening in those fields. Well, right now, Australians have been asked to put faith in payouts to businesses to revive economy. So, what's been announced in the budget and what's being put out there, as we know, there have been incentives for apprentices. There have been incentives to employ new people who are receiving job seeker or any other kind of welfare benefit at the moment. And if they're aged between 15 to 30 or even 30 to 35, who will get slightly less, they'll get about $100. And if you between 15 to 30, you'll get $200. So, there are incentives, but the catch is that they need to be recipients of job seeker or any other welfare benefits, and they're coming out of that and moving into the employment sector, then benefits would be there for employers to employ them. So, Australians have been asked to put faith into the payouts that have been given to small businesses to revive the economy. Let's take a look at that report.
Together we will rebuild the economy and secure Australia's future. I commend this bill to the House.
If there was a great political success on Budget Night 2020, it was in creating a sense of optimism and action amid the worst economic crisis in 100 years. The government is putting its faith and its budget behind business to get the economy bouncing back. But beyond the debates about growth forecasts in 2 years' time and the arrival of vaccines, there is a much more brutal reality in the budget strategy. There may be $34 billion of new business tax concessions and a new $4 billion wage subsidy, but the economy will still be facing the withdrawal over the next 5 months of the much larger JobKeeper wage subsidy. And the clear message from last night for those businesses that have been holding on thanks to JobKeeper is that they have to succumb to the inevitable if there is now no hope in sight for their business. What's your estimate of the number of zombie businesses that will be created, and what's your message for those people who look at last night's budget and say there's nothing new and we've got to now close?
Our new insolvency processes will be ones that those businesses go through, and we're hoping that many of them will continue to survive, but not every business will. That is the harsh reality of the crisis we face.
It turns out that some businesses are more equal than others in the post-COVID world, and officials and government figures are privately blunt that some businesses, like the coffee shops and restaurants that live and die on the back of bustling CBDs, are simply beyond the help of the government. It's unfortunate that the sectors hardest hit by the economic crisis are the very ones that get the least help from last night's budget, arts and hospitality. There may now be new wage subsidies, but they are designed to help a specific group of workers, young people who have been on unemployment benefits, not on JobKeeper. In fact, the new subsidy has integrity measures to ensure employers don't just sack the workers they currently have on JobKeeper and rehire them at a lower minimum wage rate.
The double barrel test is that based on the numbers as of the end of September, the headcount has to be higher and the payroll needs to be higher. And so that is the integrity test that is designed to support additional people coming on to that business.
That is, yes, you could indeed hire 2 younger, cheaper workers, but it would be pretty difficult to just transfer existing workers from one subsidy to the other. So your existing workers are purely and simply out in the cold, which in itself highlights once again how many people remain left out in the cold, as they have been since March. All those long-standing workers who came here on temporary work visas, along with others including refugees and international students. 1 million of them.
160,000 people will join the unemployment queue between now and Christmas. And then once again, just as we saw with previous government measures, people being left behind, there'll be more people left behind or held back by the budget.
However, the government would like us instead to focus on the fact that those of us who are lucky enough to have a job will soon get tax cuts. Well, sort of soon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I present the Treasury Laws Amendment, a tax plan for the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Bill.
Last night, it seemed even to some government ministers that we were all due to get a lump of cash for tax cuts backdated to July 1, and then weekly prospective tax cuts.
We've got to do it the other way around.
The government was forced to clarify today that no, that can't happen. Yes, we will get our prospective tax cuts just as soon as the laws are passed by the Parliament in the next few weeks. But we will all have to wait until we put our tax returns in at the end of the financial year to get the backdated tax payment. There are those
so they were up to date on Gentex multimedia network coverage, and of course interesting to see how it will all turn out. And the idea there is to get Australia moving again and get the productivity happening while the small and medium-sized business are able to afford to offer employment to new apprentices and new people out of the job seeker range, from the JobKeeper into the employment arena. So it will be wonderful if that really happens, and if it's taken on board properly and everyone participates in it as it was intended to. As we know, many times the schemes are put forward and people work around that. They found loopholes on that. They use it to their benefit, but they don't actually, have the whole interest at heart of that. Well, right now, let's take a very quick commercial break before we go into a lot more news. Well, there's so much happening out there and so much to do and talk about. So right now, we would like to welcome GlobeNet Realty, our sponsors.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
It definitely is, and don't forget that every Wednesday we have the real estate update with GlobeNet Realty, and of course make sure that you go on their website to check out all the open houses and auctions happening for the weekend. Well, right now, as we have all been talking about these new laws that are going to be introduced, but Acting Immigration Minister Alan Tudge says it will not be introduced until middle of next year. So what is this new law? Foreigners who fall in love with Australians would have to complete 500 hours of English classes before they're allowed to stay here permanently. Acting Immigration Minister Alan Tudge revealed new details of the English language requirements announced in Tuesday's federal budget for people applying for partner visas. The test also applies to an applicant's spouse. if they are a permanent resident rather than an Australian citizen. This will apply to prospective partner visa applicants from the middle of next year. So what this means, that we will have to require an applicant to sponsor to have met functional level of English, to have at least made reasonable efforts to learn English. And by reasonable efforts, we mean that most people would be doing about 500 hours of free language classes. So, the talks are happening. I've seen so much commentary on social media where people are saying that, if you give an IELTS test to, a local here, that they would fail. I don't think that if you're looking from the minister's message there, it's not about that. It's about people knowing English language when they come to Australia. Of course, I know there are so many different languages that people speak, but Australia's official language being English, having that knowledge of English will be beneficial. That's my belief. It will be beneficial, and I think that requirement there is not over the top. And the complaints that have been made, I think they are not very well founded. Of course, everyone should be able to learn, write, read their own languages, hold it to their communities, to their cultural events, to their functions, to their places of worship. But knowledge of English is very important. As we have seen in the recent times, translation of a lot of material into all different languages. Of course, that comes at a very great cost. But when we look at it really, really deep down, there are not many people within the community who utilize or read those pamphlets that have been translated into the language. Many times the translation is done just because everyone says, oh, they have to be translated in our language as well. What about our language? It hasn't been translated in our language. But when we really look at it, most of the people these days can understand English. May not be written one, but spoken English is understood by many people, even the elderly. So I think in making that people make a reasonable effort to say that they have spent time trying to learn English is not unreasonable ask for people coming into Australia. That's my thing. What's your thoughts? Even if you'd like to get on the show, I'd like to talk to people about that. And of course, being president of Queensland Multicultural Council, I do promote multiculturalism. Of course, everyone has to practice their own customs, traditions, religions, and pass on their customs and traditions to their coming generations. They are encouraged to teach their language skills to their community. But of course, coming to Australia, as we have seen in many other countries, there's always this fight over languages. Especially where there is no clarity about national languages, this way. And this is the time when Australia needs to, put in foundation those rules. And I think it is not an unreasonable ask for people to make reasonable efforts to go and reasonable efforts mean that most people would be doing about 500 hours of free language classes. So, classes will be made available. So that's my 2 cents on that. But I think it is very important that we maintain that level. Otherwise, we would all be going down the track which we really don't want to go down. We have to learn from the incidences and just learn from what's going on in other countries as well. And now is the time to put our stance. And that has happened in many countries because of, poor leadership and weak leadership, where people have just given in to other people's demands and not held their strong values and making the whole country weak as such. So, that's a few of my point of views. But right now, let's move on as we know in interest of time. So, will this budget encourage people to spend? What is going to happen? Now, of course, to spend, people first of all need to have the money. You can't spend what you don't have. So, what will it look like? Let's take a look at this report.
Last night, Debbie and Jason McDermott missed the budget speech because they had to take 15-year-old son Harlem to footy training.
It does give us a connection with other families and team members' families as well, and how they're going, and you have a chat and stuff like that, and to have that connection outside of your four walls is quite nice too.
Oh, good ball, good ball. The family has felt the financial pain of the COVID-19 recession, with Debbie losing her job.
I worked in travel, so I got made redundant in March. So yeah, we've kind of been, like a lot of families around Australia, affected in that way. Sort of go into panic mode, but Jason's kind of the one with a level head, and he's like, everything's going to be okay, like we'll work through it.
Jason has kept his job as a retail manager, and so the family stands to get a tax cut of more than $1,000 under the measures outlined in the budget. But the economic impact will be muted if people, like the McDermotts, don't spend the extra cash in their wallets.
Look at the savings rate in Australia at the moment. Around the middle of the year, it jumped up to the highest level that we've seen since 1974. It looks like a lot of that stimulus money is finding its way into bank accounts. It's not being spent the way the government intends or hoped, and that is the risk going on from here.
To go out and frivolously spend money wouldn't be a good idea, and I think most people would try and save a little bit or pay down some debt so they're more comfortable in their day-to-day life rather than going out and just spending it on something they may not necessarily need.
The government is framing this as a job creation budget, and there's a range of incentives for businesses to hire more workers. The government will pay businesses that hire unemployed young people. The subsidy ranges from $200 a week for workers aged up to 30 or $100 a week for those up to 35. There's also apprenticeship support, where the government will pay half the wage of up to 100,000 new apprentices and trainees.
And that is what is going to happen. So will it actually stimulate the economy? What's going to happen there? Well, right now, what's been happening at Bondi Beach, there has been a call for privatization, and we have had very strong opposition to this proposal. Let's take a look at that lead out story for today.
Now, Bondi Man is dividing locals with controversial plans for an exclusive beach club on the famous sand. The proposal draws inspiration from iconic clubs at popular European destinations like Mykonos, Capri and Saint-Tropez. It would operate from February to May on Thursdays to Sundays. Guests would be capped at 100 people between midday and 9 p.m. and charged $80 a head.
Waverley councillors knocked back the initial proposal in May, deeming it unsuitable based on council's policies and in the interest of the local community. It flagged a number of concerns, including holding events during peak periods, the beach being an alcohol-free area and safety around drinking and swimming. Now, a revised proposal is currently being assessed.
For more, we're joined by the man behind the Amalfi Beach Club proposal, Yannick Gazeki at Bondi Beach. Yannick, is this elitist? Why should part of the public beach be roped off for the exclusive use of a privileged few?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, of course. Look, it's not elitist. We've never pitched it that way. It's for everyone. It's family friendly. It's not a nightclub. It's basically a restaurant on the sand. It's available to everyone, but the real impetus behind all of this is to support the local economy. A lot of the local restaurants here are really struggling based on the restrictions that are properly imposed upon them, but they're struggling. So this really gives them an opportunity to host their restaurant effectively in an outdoor setting in a COVID-safe manner. It's about supporting the local community.
Okay, one of your key selling points to the council to try and get this up and running is that it will, quote, help rebuild Bondi's international reputation in a post-COVID world. Now, I used to live down near Bondi and we see pictures on the news every time the sun comes out. It is inundated with, you literally cannot swing a cat down there. Do you think Bondi needs help to get people there?
Yeah, absolutely. What you describe is something that used to occur. And of course, when you get a 30-degree day on a long weekend or a weekend, you will get some crowds. But all the other days, it's not the case at all, especially now. The council acknowledges that the foot traffic is dramatically down. We've got shops and restaurants closing. This is really important, and I don't think Bondi can rest on its laurels. As a local, I believe this is imperative, and I might add, we do have extremely strong local support, something like 700 signatures already and plenty of letters of support.
Okay, all right, see what the...
So there's senior levels of support there as well. Well, right now, it's wonderful having your company today. And our lead-out story for today is Donald Trump says that COVID-19 infection, what has it been for him? Has it been a blessing in disguise?
I walked in, I didn't feel good. A short 24 hours later, I was feeling great. I wanted to get out of the hospital. And that's what I want for everybody. I want everybody to be given the same treatment as your president, because I feel great. I feel like perfect. So I think this was a blessing from God that I caught it. This was a blessing in disguise. I caught it. I heard about this drug. I said, let me take it. It was my suggestion. I said, let me take it. And it was incredible the way it worked. Incredible. And I think if I didn't catch it, we'd be looking at that like a number of other drugs. But it really did a fantastic job. I want to get for you what I got, and I'm going to make it free. You're not going to pay for it. It wasn't your fault that this happened. It was China's fault. And China's going to pay a big price, what they've done to this country. China's going to pay a big price, what they've done to the world. This was China's fault. And just remember that. So we're going to get you the drug. It's going to be free. We're going to get it into the hospitals as soon as you can, as soon as we can. And you'll see some amazing things happen because we have our military is doing the distribution. It's called logistics. And they deliver hundreds of thousands of troops in a matter of days. This is easy stuff for them. Our general's all ready. We're waiting for the emergency use authorization. And the drug companies have just made a lot of it. So hopefully this is going to be not just a therapeutic, it's going to be much more than a therapeutic. You're going to get better fast, just like I did. So again, a blessing in disguise. Good luck.
And good luck. Well, pretty bold statements there from the president that this is all China's fault and he wants everyone to have what he had and he's going to make it free and make it available. I hope there's some merit in those talks there. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's been wonderful having your company on today. Of course, as I mentioned, because of the meeting at Brisbane City Council, it was late. And good news that one of the function or the events that we have been promoting, the Lord Mayor's multicultural dinner, completely sold out today. So, well done, Brisbane. Of course, people are looking forward to going to events. Now, of course, we know City Hall can accommodate up to 1,500 people. Under the COVID restrictions, 234 people only, and it's been completely sold out now. Well, let's take a look at other events that are taking place or that will be taking place in and around Brisbane. And as I mentioned before, that a lot of these would be taking place virtually. And what's going to happen now is there are many functions and events that will be taking place, but they will be taking place partly in virtually. So what it will mean that some people will be at the functions and then it will also be live streamed. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, let's take a very quick look at all the functions and events. That's a sold out event. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's been wonderful having your company. It's always so good to see you. I'd like to, get your comments and events happening. And of course, I'd like to thank all the group admins who allow us to share our post onto the groups and share with their members. So it is wonderful to see that. So until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. Be good, but most importantly, stay safe.